Ever feel like, I don't know, maybe you're just drowning in information, but you're like so thirsty for actual understanding? Like there's got to be a cheat code to actually being in the know without, needing weeks to read through everything.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Journeyman Podcast, episode 48.
Oh, wow.
This isn't like just your average tech update. This is a deep dive, your shortcut to
Yeah.
like actual insight. You
Nice.
shared a whole stack of notes with us about all this AI buzz that's going around, and we sifted through it all just for you
Oh, how nice.
to bring you the real like juicy nuggets.
The good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. You're someone who values knowledge, someone who's like driven by curiosity,
Right.
whether it's, to get ready for a big meeting at work, or maybe you're thinking about switching careers, or even if it's just, because you've got that
Yeah.
that insatiable thirst to learn. You want those aha moments, right? But without the overwhelm. And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to unpack these crazy advancements in AI models, things
Yeah.
like ChatGPT and even beyond.
Yeah.
You gave us your notes titled All Notes 1903-203 Euro 25, and some great bits from pasted text, all focused on these AI breakthroughs. And our mission, I guess, is to kind of distill the biggest insights from it all.
Sounds good.
How are these AI models actually evolving? What can they do now? That was basically science fiction, like yesterday.
Yeah.
And what are the really big questions that we need to be thinking about as this whole tech wave keeps crashing forward, right?
Right.
And we're not just summarizing here. We're connecting the dots, highlighting what truly matters, and trying to spark those aha moments.
Yeah, those aha moments.
So before we jump into the deep end here, if you're on this journey of learning and discovery with us, just take a moment to like and subscribe to the Journeyman Podcast. It really does help us, bring more of these deep dives to other curious minds out there. All right, let's unpack this.
Right. Let's unpack it.
So what really jumps out is just how much ChatGPT's release, it just ignited this intense competition.
Yeah.
In your notes and the pasted text, it really paints this vivid picture of this AI race between like all the big players, OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Meta AI,
Yeah.
and Anthropic, all kind of battling it out. And it's almost hard to believe that these models we're looking at today, all the different versions of ChatGPT, Google's Gemini and Paul M, Anthropic's Claude, and Meta's Llama, they can do things now that just felt totally out there, like in the future, just a little while ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about having like actual fluent conversations, solving problems that are incredibly complex, and they can even understand images.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It's really incredible. And you're right. The pace of progress it's breathtaking. It seems like just yesterday we were marveling at chatbots that could barely string together a coherent sentence. And now here we are with these systems that exhibit what can only be described as a form of intelligence.
Right. It's nuts. And a big part of that, it seems like, from the sources we've been looking at, is how these large language models, the LLMs, are built and how they're trained. And we keep hearing about scaling up. And I guess that just intuitively makes sense, right? I mean, bigger models like GPT-4, with more parameters, they've just got to have more processing power. It's like a bigger brain.
Right. That's a very natural assumption. And to a certain extent, you're absolutely right. Increasing the size of these models is definitely part of the story. But the research that you highlighted in your notes, and particularly that pasted text section from DeepMind, it offers a really crucial insight. They found that a lot of the earlier LLMs were actually undertrained for their size.
Interesting.
Undertrained.
Yeah, meaning they hadn't really been exposed to enough data to really fully unlock their potential,
Yeah.
And this realization led to the development of what they call compute optimal training.
Compute optimal training.
Yeah, it's kind of like, studying for a big test, just cramming a ton of information, which is like, having a huge model but undertrained might not actually be as effective as studying in a more focused way with the right materials.
Right.
And that's kind of analogous to a smaller model, but one that's trained optimally.
I see.
And a great example of this is DeepMind's Chinchilla model.
Okay.
It actually outperforms much larger but undertrained models like Gopher and the earlier version of GPT-3, on a whole range of different tasks.
So it's not just about having like the biggest brain in the room. It's about knowing how to use it effectively.
Exactly. Right. But even with this understanding, like this compute optimal training, the trend of just making these models bigger and bigger, that keeps going, right? I mean, we're seeing Meta's Llama models reaching like hundreds of billions of parameters.
Yeah.
What kind of like fundamental shifts might we see with more and more people having access to these really powerful models?
That's a really great question. And while, compute optimal training has definitely been a critical course correction, it's true that sheer scale does unlock certain capabilities. Think of it this way. A well-conditioned athlete is obviously going to be superior to someone who's completely untrained, but a truly gifted athlete, someone with exceptional talent who's been rigorously trained, they're going to reach heights that most others simply can't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And your notes and the pasted text, they highlight some really incredible examples of these leaps in capability. OpenAI's GPT-4, which came out in 2023, that was a real game changer. It was multimodal, which means it could handle both text and images, and it reached what they call human-level performance on a bunch of different benchmarks.
Wow, human level.
Yeah, and that simulated bar exam result where GPT-4 scored in the top 10% compared to GPT 3.5, which scored in the bottom 10% on the same exam, that really just highlights how significant that jump was.
That's a huge difference. And then there's Google's Paul M2, which really focused on languages.
Right.
It understands over 100 languages and has gotten much better at logic and coding. And it sounds like Google DeepMind's Gemini 2.0 is pushing things even further with what they're calling an agentic era design, which means it's built to use tools like external tools, and it can even generate images and audio. This shift from just processing information to actually doing things in the world, that seems like a really fundamental change.
It is. It
Yeah.
really is a fundamental change. And what's especially interesting about Gemini 2.0 is that it's been designed from the ground up for tool use. It's not just about processing information internally. It's about interacting with the world around it through these different tools, which just vastly expands what it can do. And the fact that it's natively multimodal, it understands and generates both images and speech, that's a really big sign of where things are headed.
Yeah, for sure. And we can't forget about Meta's Llama models.
Right.
The fact that they've open sourced them, making them available to a much wider community of researchers and developers, that's a big deal. Even if it does raise some questions about oversight, which our sources definitely point out.
Mhm.
While wider access is great for speeding up progress, are the safeguards in place strong enough to prevent potential misuse, especially with the risks of generating harmful content?
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. Open sourcing definitely accelerates development and leads to more innovation. It allows a much wider range of people to experiment and build on these fundamental models. We've seen that happen in so many areas of technology, but the decentralized nature of it and the potential for misuse if you don't have really robust safety mechanisms built in, those are definitely valid concerns that the sources highlight.
Right. So I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing is that all these improvements, all this scaling up,
Yeah,
it's leading to models that are just becoming more and more capable, right?
exactly.
They're getting more accurate, they can produce longer and more coherent outputs,
Yeah,
and they're becoming more factually reliable. And
exactly.
the underlying tech is becoming way more powerful and versatile, but it's not just about the basic architecture. The sources we've been looking at also talk about some really interesting enhancements to the AI's actual ability to think, to reason.
Right. And we're moving beyond just, sophisticated pattern recognition here. One of the key techniques that's highlighted is something called chain of thought prompting.
Okay, chain of thought prompting.
Yeah. And what's fascinating about this is that by simply allowing the model to generate a step-by-step breakdown of its reasoning process, it actually performs much better on complex tasks.
Yeah.
And this was really clearly demonstrated by Google researchers who were working on math word problems. It's almost like the AI is showing its work, like we had to do back in
Yeah.
math class, and that actually helps it arrive at the correct answer more consistently.
So it's explaining how it's getting to the answer.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And this technique has been particularly effective in areas like coding and quantitative reasoning,
Okay.
We're seeing models like GPT-4 and Claude. They can actually write and debug code, and they're getting really good at it.
No.
Yeah. Claude 2, for instance, got much better scores on those Python coding tests, and its accuracy on math problems has also significantly improved.
So if we're talking big picture here, these advancements in coding and this quantitative reasoning, they've got to have like huge implications for automation and just boosting productivity across like tons of different industries.
Absolutely. And it's not just about being able to generate code. It's about understanding the logic behind it and being able to debug it to find and fix errors.
Right.
And that requires a pretty advanced level of reasoning.
And then there's this idea of tool use, which I mean,
Yeah.
it makes that it's no longer enough for AI to just like process information internally. They're now able to interact with the outside world through tools and APIs.
Right. And Google DeepMind's Gemini is a prime example of this. It's specifically designed to use tools, and the fact that it can call upon external tools to do things like perform really complex calculations or retrieve up-to-date information from the internet, that just dramatically enhances its ability to reason and to provide accurate current responses.
So like giving it access to like a whole toolbox of specialized skills.
Exactly. And then you've got things like Bing Chat and the ChatGPT plugins, which integrate web search functionality. That essentially gives the AI access to the vast knowledge base of the internet, right?
Right.
To supplement its internal reasoning capabilities. It's like giving it the ability to instantly look up anything it needs to know.
I like that.
And then, of course, you have the expanded context windows, which I was really struck by the fact that Anthropic's Claude 2 can handle a context of 100,000 tokens, which is like enough to process a whole book.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's a lot of information.
It is. And what's really game-changing here is the ability to maintain a coherent understanding of all that information, to keep track of all those threads, this extended memory, as it's sometimes called, combined with these sophisticated planning techniques. It allows the AI to tackle much more intricate tasks that require it to work on something for a longer period of time. Think about, analyzing really long legal documents or writing comprehensive reports without losing the crucial threads of information. And the fact that Claude 2 can draft these extended documents like detailed memos or even stories in a single pass, that really just highlights the power of this expanded context.
So when you put all these pieces together, the better prompting techniques, the improved coding and math skills, being able to use tools in these much larger context windows, you're seeing a real leap forward in AI's ability to reason and solve problems, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're not just processing language, they're starting to understand and even strategize.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. They're not just manipulating symbols, they're starting to grasp the meaning behind them and to plan their actions accordingly.
And this leads us pretty naturally to the next big area that our sources highlight, which is the huge strides that have been made in natural language understanding and generation. I mean, it's one thing for an AI to like crunch a bunch of data, but it's a whole other level for it to actually understand all the nuances of human language and then to communicate back to us in a way that feels that feels natural.
Right. And what's really key here is that these models are becoming much better at aligning with human intentions.
Mm.
Techniques like instruction tuning and reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF, have been really, really important in this. Essentially, what happens with RLHF is that humans evaluate the AI's responses, they reward good answers and penalize bad ones. It's like a continuous feedback loop that helps the model learn to align its output with what we expect, with what we consider to be helpful and appropriate.
It's like we're training it to be like a good conversational partner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And OpenAI, for example, has done a ton of work fine-tuning GPT-4 using this kind of continuous human feedback. And that's led to big improvements in its factual accuracy, its ability to be steered towards certain types of responses, and its ability to refuse inappropriate or harmful requests.
So it's not just about making them smarter, it's about making them more helpful and less likely to do things that we don't want them to do.
Exactly.
And Anthropic's constitutional AI approach sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like they're training these models with a set of ethical principles to make sure they stay, helpful and harmless.
Right. Anthropic's approach really focuses on embedding these ethical guidelines directly into the training process itself. And this makes models like Claude very good at explaining why they gave a certain response, and it also helps them avoid producing harmful or toxic outputs. And this kind of alignment tuning, it's become pretty standard across all the major AI labs now. Everyone's working on creating models that not only understand our questions accurately, but also respond in a way that's safe, that's beneficial, and that aligns with what we want.
And it's not just about English anymore, right? The sources talk about some pretty impressive gains in multilingual understanding. GPT-4 is even better in many other languages than it is in English, and Google's Paul M2 supports over 100 languages.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that's really important for making these technologies truly global, right? It breaks down language barriers and allows many more people to benefit from them. And these models are also getting much better at understanding the specific context of a conversation and adapting their communication style accordingly. We see this with OpenAI's system message feature for ChatGPT. You can actually tell it how you want it to communicate, whether you want it to be a friendly tutor or a formal expert or even adopt a specific persona. That level of control over how it generates language is pretty amazing.
It's almost like you're directing it, like an actor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool. And when it comes to actually generating text, it seems like the quality is also taking a big leap forward. Models like Claude 2 are getting really high scores on standardized writing and reading comprehension tests that are actually designed for humans.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The fluency, the coherence, and just the factual grounding of the text that these latest models generate, it's often indistinguishable from human written content. And we're even starting to see these highly specialized LLMs like Google's MedPal M2,
Oh, yeah.
which has been trained on this enormous amount of medical knowledge, and it performs incredibly well on medical licensing exams. And this shows how these models can be fine-tuned to excel in specific domains, to become real experts in those fields.
So they're getting much better at understanding us, talking to us in our own languages, and even developing deep expertise in specific areas. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And this kind of leads us seamlessly into what feels like the next big evolutionary step,
Mhm.
multimodal abilities, which is the AI's capacity to interact with and understand more than just text, right?
Right. And this is where things get really exciting and the potential applications just explode. Because for a long time, AI has mostly existed in this realm of text-based interactions, but now we're seeing the rise of models that can process and understand a much wider range of data, including images, audio, and other sensory inputs. And GPT-4 was a real landmark in this shift. It was introduced as a natively multimodal model capable of analyzing images alongside text. Those examples you mentioned, being able to explain the humor in a meme or suggest recipes based on a picture of what's in your fridge, those really illustrate the power of this capability. It's basically like giving the AI the ability to see.
Right. It's like giving the AI eyes.
Yeah.
And with ChatGPT vision and voice, this is becoming even more real, more accessible. You can actually show ChatGPT a picture or you can talk to it and it understands and responds accordingly. And the fact that it now has page generation with DAE3 and can do voice interaction using Whisper and its new text-to-speech system, that's just mind-blowing.
It really is. And it represents a fundamental change in how we can interact with AI. It moves us beyond just typing and reading towards a much more natural, intuitive way of communicating, much more like how we interact with each other. And it's not just OpenAI that's doing this. Google's Bard can now also process image prompts using Google Lens, and it can generate images using Adobe Firefly. And as we talked about earlier, Google DeepMind's Gemini models are being built to be natively multimodal from the start, with the ability to understand and generate both images and speech built right in.
And meta AI is in the game too, with things like ImageBind, which is aiming to create this unified understanding across all sorts of different modalities and their AI assistants, which can now create images right within a conversation. It really does feel like we're moving from the age of simple chatbots to this new era of multisensory AI assistants that can perceive and interact with the world in this much richer, more nuanced way.
Absolutely. And the implications are just massive. Imagine being able to help people with visual impairments by giving them really detailed and accurate descriptions of images or analyzing complex medical images to help doctors diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately,
Correct.
or even just creating visual content from ideas just by talking about them, or having much more intuitive and natural interactions with our digital assistants. The ability for AI to process and understand multiple senses at once, it just opens up so many possibilities.
It's not just about words on a screen anymore. AI is quickly gaining the ability to see, to hear, and even to create. And all these amazing advancements are leading to a surge in real-world applications,
Yeah.
right? I mean, across basically every field you can imagine.
Yeah. And what's remarkable is how quickly these cutting-edge developments are being translated into practical tools and services that are already impacting our daily lives. Your notes and the pasted text, they provide a lot of great examples.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Take search and information retrieval, for example. AI-powered search engines like Bing, which uses GPT-4, and Google's Search Generative Experience, they're providing conversational answers and synthesizing complex information in ways that traditional search engines just couldn't. And the fact that Bing's AI chat feature has already helped them reach over 100 million daily users, that shows you the kind of impact these advancements are having on how we access information. It's like the search engine is becoming this highly knowledgeable and readily available personal assistant.
It's like the search engine is becoming a really smart friend you can ask anything.
Exactly.
And then you've got all these office productivity tools that are popping up. AI assistants like Microsoft 365's and Copilot and Google Workspace AI. They're helping us write emails, generate reports, create presentations, and they're leading to some pretty significant increases in productivity. That statistic about people being able to complete tasks 30% faster with ChatGPT's help, that's pretty hard to ignore.
It is. And those kinds of productivity gains can have a huge impact on businesses and on how individuals work. And this trend extends into coding and software development as well. AI code generators like GitHub Copilot, they're now responsible for uh, a surprisingly large chunk of the code that's being written around the world. And these advanced models like GPT-4, they're even tackling really complex coding challenges, which could really democratize coding and make it accessible to people who don't have traditional programming skills.
It's like having a coding expert on call, 24/7.
Yeah.
But like our sources point out, we still need to be careful about making sure that the code that's being generated is reliable, that it's secure, and that it doesn't have errors.
Right.
So human oversight is still really important.
It is. It's absolutely crucial. And we can't forget about the impact this is having on customer service. AI chatbots, powered by these advanced LLMs, they're providing much more personalized and natural sounding support now.
Hmm.
They can handle a lot of the routine inquiries, which frees up human agents to focus on more complex issues. And this has the potential to make customer experiences much better and also reduce costs for businesses.
For sure. And the influence on content creation and media is pretty obvious too. Generative AI is being used for everything from writing ad copy and social media posts to creating illustrations and even experimenting with video and audio content.
Right.
But this obviously raises some big questions about originality and intellectual property rights and just the ethics of AI-generated creative work, which are, things that are being debated right now in the industry and in the legal world.
Absolutely. Those are really important conversations that need to be happening.
Yeah, and it's not just about businesses, right? We're seeing AI being used in education
Yeah.
as personalized tutors like
Mm.
Khan Academy's Kamigo,
Right.
and in specialized fields like healthcare and law, where it can help with things like writing reports and doing legal research.
Mhm.
But but the sources really emphasize the need for human review to catch any hallucinations or errors, which can be a real problem.
Yeah, and that example of the lawyer who accidentally cited non-existent legal cases, that's a really good reminder of the limitations that still exist and why human oversight is so crucial in those critical domains. But the potential is huge. I mean, imagine AI helping doctors make more accurate diagnoses or streamlining legal processes, making them more efficient.
Yeah.
And this is all happening in other areas too, like finance with AI-powered financial advisors and robotics where LLMs are being used to control robots. In fact, some estimates suggest that something like 19% of jobs have at least half of their tasks that could be, assisted or even fully automated by these increasingly capable LLMs. It's a technology that's really poised to transform so many aspects of human activity and reshape the future of work.
So what does all this mean for you, for the listener? It's clear that AI isn't some distant future anymore. It's happening right now, and it's affecting almost every part of our lives, from how we search for information to how we create things to how we work. And the advancements in AI's ability to understand language, to reason through complex problems, to see the world through images and hear through audio, it's really remarkable. Hopefully this deep dive is giving you those aha moments where you can see the connections between these technological leaps and how they're playing out in the real world. And we did it without burying you in jargon.
Right.
If you want to dig deeper into any of this, we've got a link to the original source materials down in the description. And we really want to hear from you. What stands out to you the most about all these advancements? What questions does it raise for your own work or your life? Share your thoughts in the comments or over on our Journeyman channel. That's JOURNEYMA. And if you found this deep dive valuable, if you think others would get something out of it, please share it. And if you want to stay informed and get these kinds of concise but thorough insights on a regular basis, make sure you visit the Journeyman channel and hit that subscribe button. We're always diving deep into topics that really matter. So here's a thought to leave you with. As AI becomes more and more a part of how we make decisions and how we create things, how are we going to keep cultivating our own critical thinking skills and our own ingenuity? It's something to think about as you go about your day.
It is. It's a really important question.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the exciting world of AI advancements on the Journeyman podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the heart of knowledge.